Hey everyone, I'm back again to show you some more stitches that you can do with the Kreinik threads. Now I'm going to show you how to do a trellis stitch. So right here I have two different examples of trellis stitch, and there's actually a million different combinations that you can do in order to make this stitch. And I'm going to start by showing you the basic structure that you can use to create a trellis stitch, and then you can figure out your own ways to be creative. So I'm going to start by drawing a shape on my fabric. Boop. Then I'm going to pick a thread, and now trellis stitch uses a lot of thread, so you want to think about what the size of your shape and how much thread you have in each color before you begin, because if you have a look at this one, I've got a base of this silver thread with some green and gold on top, and then here I've used quite a bit of the blue and the red and this kind of silvery black thread. So you want to make sure you have enough of each color before you begin. And as I mentioned in a previous video, you want to have an appropriate size needle for the thread that you're using. So I'm using an embroidery needle, which again has a slightly smaller eye than the chenille needle. And I'm going to begin my trellis stitch right in the center of my shape, bringing the needle up and then laying across the shape to see what direction I want my first row of stitches to go in. So I can move my thread around back and forth to decide, do I want it to be diagonal, straight up and down? It's up to you. So I'm going to go with a diagonal stitch to start. Now I'm leaving my thread laying across like this and bring my needle down right next to where I was. Next I'm going to bring my needle up and then tip it forward, and this is a little trick that helps you to judge the distance between your first two rows. So I've got my first row here. If I tip my needle that way, I can see exactly where my next row is going to be. Then I'm going to take this thread across the shape, again laying it across the shape and then bringing my needle down right next to where it is. If I don't do that and I just take my needle down here, it might not go exactly where I want it to be, and I'll have a row that's kind of off from the first row. So again, lay my thread across, bring my needle down, and then up again here, check the distance until I've got it exactly where I want it. Bring it across, bring the needle down, up again, across, down. Okay, and now I've run out of thread, so I'm going to grab another thread here to finish my shape. Okay, so now I've got my first grid of color with this gold here. And in this example, I actually did 3 grids in 3 different colors, one on top of the other. The next step you want to do after you have made as many grids as you want is you need to have little holding stitches on top. So here I have a little bit of a cross stitch with a long green thread and a short gold thread. And then on this one, I have kind of a rose gold, just one little stitch that's holding down the top layer, the top grid, which is this blue one. So I'm going to grab a different color thread and a different type of thread. And I'm just going to make some big X's to hold down these stitches. Because if you have a look here, if I touch it, everything moves around a lot. So the idea with trellis is that you're going to make stitches over the top to hold down these loose threads. And they can be as big or as small as you want. It's totally up to you what kind of design you want to use. And if you want, you can then go across again and make another stitch. So that's a couple of options. Something else you can do is fill some of these spaces with a satin stitch. So I'm going to come up on one side of the shape and down on the other. And because I'm using this flat thread, it fills the space really quickly. So this is a nice use of your flat thread. Like that. Okay, so that's just a few ideas for how you can make trellis stitch using the Kreinik threads.